Oh, Ted's okay. Beautiful.
Okay, says we're recording.
Awesome. Oh, he says we could upload audio too if we want. Okay, cool. Well, I'm ready, baby. Bring it.
Okay, so well, listen, uh, I didn't get a chance to get over to work, and I have most of your books there.
Okay,
So
no.
I wanted to look at the timeline again. So all I have at home is a Shoeshine Kill. So uh, we'll have to wing it as best we can.
Yeah, dude. You're awesome. Don't worry about it.
Okay, and then I've been composing in my head a head note or introductory note to the interview, and so after we get off the air, I'll write that and send that to you
Sounds
so you
great.
can incorporate it in. Um,
Well,
yeah.
I loved your questions. I was just trying to, delimit them a little bit because I just thought I don't want to take 90 minutes here. If I mean for our listeners, I mean I'm an interesting guy, but it just might be a little long. That's all. So
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, so
this
yeah,
is like Jimmy
and
Carter being interviewed by Playboy. You know what I'm saying? And so
yes, and we're not sharing this video, right? Like you're just going to use the transcript.
well, that's what I was thinking. And Ted suggests, well, you could upload. I don't want to upload
No,
the bonus episode. No.
no.
Okay.
I'm not.
You look great.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll get started, and we won't use the video, but we will use the transcript. Let's.
Sounds good.
Okay. So I've been looking over the questions, and I received your note about which ones you liked and which ones you didn't like, and we can talk about any of them and any questions. Like you can say, like, that's really silly. Let me answer this question instead.
Okay. All
So
right.
you can write.
All right. Sounds fair.
And
We
also I've juggled the order of the questions a little bit. So
sure.
yeah, so we'll just get started.
All righty.
Does that work for you?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So I'm looking at what was originally numbered question two. So, how has Hayden evolved over the course of the series? His life circumstances, of course, keep evolving, but how has Hayden changed? And how has your thinking about Hayden evolved? Has your writing style or approach to the novels also evolved? So,
Yeah.
what kinds of evolutions have been going on?
Well, the first one was I didn't know he was a victim of sexual abuse until the second novel. Um, so that just happened in a scene. It suddenly just came to me as the writer, and it's like the character spoke to me. Then I realized, looking back over the first novel, all the hints are there. I just didn't see them. So it was really interesting, like the violent way he dispatches of the bad guy, the personal connection that he has with the in the terms of his own father, and it's this father figure who's been abusing his daughters, and so um, that was like the personal connection wasn't there for me, obviously, in the first novel. But after I got to the second novel, I went back and I could see all the trace. It was there. I just in my subconscious or something. So that would be like one big, evolution over the novels was that discovery. Then I think his love for Stana has grown, and their relationship has grown, making him a dad. Shows another kind of growth. I think in the I think the thing for Hayden, as I said, he's a moral person, highly ethical, and I get that from reading like the Raymond Chandler stuff. And I mean, he should be a knight in my eyes, tarnished, but a knight, and trying to do the right things, as I've said before. But the world's a hard place to navigate, and sometimes it's like that line from Raiders of the Lost Ark. It doesn't take much to push you out of the light. Bullock says to uh to Indy, and he can. I think the latest novel, for example. I don't want to give it away, but it's a bit dark what happened, and I stole
Yes.
that. I stole that from Chandler, where I think it's in Farewell My Lovely. Uh, Marlowe's moral, but then he doesn't do anything at the end and just lets the criminal get caught. And in my novel, my guy's moral, but he doesn't do anything to stop something from happening, and the criminal gets caught in a much bigger sense. But I really was inspired by Chandler's Farewell, My Lovely for that ending. There's also a McGray novel, and I don't remember the title. I've read so many of them, but where the guy, I can't remember what he did. He's a killer, abuser, something. And McGray gives him a moment alone so he can basically kill himself. And it's like, holy shit, McGray, that's not what I for a man without judgment and all this, but it's like he just takes a step back, waits a beat, and then the guy takes himself out. And so it's like, it's troubling. But yeah, so from all the stuff I've read, and then some of it gets incorporated. So that's a bit of an evolution. But he's never going to become Mickey Spillane. It's Mike Hammer who enjoys sadistically hurting people. That's just not how Hayden rolls.
Yeah, he'd be a different character.
Yeah, and
He'd
I
be a
just
different guy. Yeah, no, it's really interesting talking about the McGray, and I have the same experience. I've read so many. They've fused into one
yeah
epic circumspect tale. But Agatha Christie does it too. Poirot sometimes doesn't turn, somebody into the police. He has his own kind of ethical judgments on
yeah
things.
yeah yeah absolutely yeah and I kind of like that, I guess. But I also liked how in mine they were like co-conspirators. Like
Yeah.
they're both in on it. You know what I'm saying? Husband and wife. But I don't want to give it away. It's a
Yeah,
good
no,
family.
no, yeah, no spoilers. So, Grant, this is a tough question, and so I want to back up to something
Sure.
you said earlier. And of course, you don't have to we don't have to answer or talk
No,
about any of these, but it was really interesting to me what you said that after the second novel, you could look back at the first novel. Like that's really curious about what must go on in our brains.
yeah,
How do you account for like that there's a kind of mystery in the writing, and
absolutely.
we're not the conscious agents fully of what goes on. Like that's really interesting. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I totally. I mean, one of the things you asked me one time was, what is it that I like so much about hockey? And I love the structured improvisation of a hockey game. Like in baseball, the pitcher and the catcher, they call a pitch, they know what they're going to be pitching. So if there's an element of control in hockey, you can do like a two-man forecheck or whatever, or clog up the neutral zone, or you know, you can play systems, but once you get the puck, there's so much you can do with it, and everything's happening so quickly, and you have to make quick decisions. And I find writing crime stories is I never fully know where things are going. I'm just open to the impulse, and then impulses strike. And so I have a general plot idea, but the story kind of invents itself. As I'm a seat of the pants kind of writer. And um and so with the Hayden stuff, that first book, it was just like trying to survive the first book, figuring out the character, and not fully knowing who the character is, though there's a lot of me in the character. But it was the second book suddenly this came out of nowhere, I thought, but I think I must have been channeling. So I
Yeah.
mean, I believe in the mysteries of the universe and the magic of, oh, it sounds so cornball, but there is something magical about writing. Like I don't know where everything comes from. And I know a lot of it is, the religious side of me would say God. The more agnostic side of me would say it's just because I read a lot of other and watched a lot of other narratives, and it's all file cards in my head, and I'm able to just suddenly one will pop up. Oh, I can do this like McGray did, or I can do this like And I think it's both. I think there is something religious or mystical, but there's also something that just goes from devouring so many narratives, and I've got stuff in my head that I don't even know is there, and it pops up to solve problems when I'm in a problem. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, there's a million connections, and we don't hardly know what goes on
Right.
in our own brains. And it is the pleasure of discovery in writing is so immense.
Yes.
I think. Like it's creativity. Like who knows? Like have an idea, but then things take on a life of their own and they talk, as you said, the character talks
Yeah,
to
yeah.
you.
I remember Ron Carlson said that it's in dialogue that the characters most come alive because they're talking in their own skins. It's not usually, I don't know if you use free and direct discourse it is, but usually if you use direct dialogue, the characters are in their own shoes and they will surprise you. And I have found that to be so true. I I can't tell you how many stories I've written where a character will say a line. I'm like, holy shit. I thought this was a romance story. Now I realize these two characters aren't going to get together because this character just spoke to me. I mean,
Yeah.
it's my mind.
That's awesome. I love that. Okay, before we move on, I want to go back again. Has your in because now you're into the fifth Hayden
Yeah,
Fuller mystery. I mean, you're probably working on the sixth.
right.
Have has your thinking or have has your approach to writing or telling the stories uh, also evolved, or the way that you conceptualize them? Because now there's this series, and there's a lot more history, and there's a lot more weight, and there's a lot more understanding, perhaps, of character. Like, does
Yeah.
that has that evolved too, or you're just
Ab-
kind of yeah,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like okay, the fifth book is called Artifacts, which is basically the last short story in the latest collection.
yeah,
It's Artifacts, and
yeah,
that's a prequel. And so
yeah,
I'm using the same title for the novel, even though it's basically a sequel to it. Um, and that's like set in the 60s again. So it's like I go back in time. So I've been going forward, and I'm going to go back, kind of like Max Allan Collins does with the Quarry novels. He jumps all over the place. And so I'm going back to the 60s, and we're going to showcase Eddie in that novel. Like they're going to work together. And but I'm thinking for the sixth book called The Five Points of Death.
love it, love
that,
it.
for that one, it's going to be a sequel to book four. It's
Ah,
going to be, and I've already come up with an angle, because Hayden and his wife were going to go to Mother Russia to watch the next four games, join all those 3,000 Canadians that went. And I decided I just can't let Eddie go. So the wife's going to go. Her mom had a stroke. Hayden's going to stay behind to deal with the mom, who's doing okay, wasn't a severe stroke, but she needs care. So he and Connie are going to stay with mom, and he's going to encourage his wife to go because it's a tremendous opportunity for her to, cover this as a reporter. And that's when all this satanic cult shit's going to happen. And while she's gone, and that's when Eddie's going to come to help out because he usually has his wife helping him out, and Eddie's going to, there's going to be some line. I don't know. That's just all I know so far about it. Is like he's going to say something like, "Your wife told me to keep an eye on you, so here I am," like something like that. And then he's going to be there helping to solve the case of this strange cult that is running loose in Toronto. So that I'm excited to write. That's what I'll write this summer. The Five Points of Death. So
oh,
yeah,
that's amazing. And of course, anyone who reads A Shoeshine Kill, and I'm not going to give away uh, spoilers, knows that there's more to be told about the Summit series.
yes,
And so I've been very curious about that, and I've had my fingers crossed that
yeah.
that would be the case. So yeah, I
Yes,
love it.
so it's going to be the same structure. It'll be like
Yeah.
games 5, 6, 7, and 8, and the 2 days, the day in between. So that's definitely it, baby. That's what I'm
No,
gonna.
dude. So
Yeah.
yeah, so let's turn off this damn machine and you get to work. I
I'm
can't
so
wait till I can't
yeah,
wait to hear more about it till the summer. Okay.
yeah. It's gonna be, and that's Henderson steps up. Like just everything. Esposito, Kenny D comes up big. I mean, I know he let in 5 goals, but he was huge in game 8. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
Biden was amazing, and he also won game 6. Played great. So he didn't win a game in Canada, but he wins two in Moscow. So
No,
yeah,
and he's a giant of Canadian culture. I mean, he just is, right?
he's
And
great, and
so,
he's
yeah, the
so
most respect.
so cerebral. Just like the guy. I read his book, The Game, twice. I mean, it's just a fabulous book on
Yeah,
hockey.
easily one of the best books about hockey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I,
Okay.
and even though I'm a Leafs fan, I don't know if y'all can see, but I got a Kenny Driving postcard. I'm trying to point with my finger, but it's not. Anyway, right
Oh, there
there.
you go. There it goes with the
Yeah.
iconic mask.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So
you got
I'm,
some Maple Leafs off to your
of
left,
course,
my
of course.
right.
I got Dick Duff and Davy Keon.
Oh man.
Yeah, Dick Duff,
Yeah.
Keon, and then the
But
big
you
amp.
but but you don't have Frank.
Frank
Yeah.
is
Oh, there you go.
there you go, and George, the chief,
Yeah,
as my
right
dad.
on.
My dad, I'd love him dearly, but he was a bit of a, let's just say, a little bit of the Archie Bunker of Toronto. And he used to say to me, kid, you know why George Armstrong has the C on his jersey? And I'm like, because he's the captain, Dad. No, the C is for chief. He's the only player in the league that has his name on his jersey. And I'm 5 years old. I thought this was the gospel.
This is true. Yeah. Dad.
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 And that is something too. Not to pick on my dad. I love him dearly, but one of the things that makes my books a little different from the tradition is I'm not all in on the femme fatale. Yeah, I got Dangerous Women, the second book,
Yeah.
the fourth book. Yeah, but it's more dangerous men behind the scenes that I explore in the books more so than the femme fatale. So
Oh,
anyway,
I think that's certainly the case. I mean, the evil doers. Uh,
yes.
I mean, and yeah, the femme fatale is not quite your thing. It doesn't. I wouldn't say. Yeah, I mean, early
Early on,
on. But
Stana seems to be one, but then they
yeah,
work their thing out and they get married. And
yeah,
so I was wanting to play with that. Like to me, it's all about generic transformation, like taking aspects of the
yeah,
genre and playing around. So yeah, I and Stana is a shout out to my dad. His name was Stan. So
yeah. All right on.
Freud could do a whole thing on that. But
Well, we won't invite him.
yeah, Uncle Sigmund could stay at home.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, he's busy with other things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, it's really, I mean, I'm totally fascinated, and this is one of the other questions, and so I guess we'll hop around and
Sure.
and you can pull it together how you want. Um, but you're one of the questions, and this was number 9 on the original list, that you're both a historian and a theorist and a practitioner of the
Yeah.
genre. So it's really interesting to hear you talk about revising the genre. Can you talk more about
Yeah.
that? Like how you conceive of the genre and how you work with and against its tropes and
Yeah. First off, I think because I've written a lot of craft essays on craft and crime, I've
yeah,
learned so much about what other writers do by studying it. And then I use some of the techniques, like in some of the Eddie Sands stories, I've used the kind of time jumps that Mosley uses. And I love that about his work. So you can have something set in the 50s, but it's obviously written, I think, in the early 90s, and you're looking, and so you got this perspective of maturity and social consciousness, looking at a time when maybe your social consciousness wasn't quite alive. And I none of the Eddie Sands stories that are in the back of the of Shoeshine, but in some of my other ones, I've played with that. I love the idea of the intelligent mistake that
yeah.
McGray. I love Chandler's just the whole thing about I'm loyal to my client, all that stuff, all that detective stuff. Loyal to the client, and then the idea is like whenever you're stuck, just have a couple of guys come through the door with guns. I've used. I don't know how many times. I don't know where to
Bring
go. Oh
bring the
my!
heat, baby.
Yeah, exactly. I think was a Godard quoting somebody. Maybe it was Chabrol. I think it was one of those French cats. Said something like, all you need is a girl and a gun. It might have been Godard. I think it was
Yeah,
Godard. And I think that he was talking about Breathless. And
yeah,
uh, I mean, it's so true in some ways. So there's like elements of the genre. But then and one of the questions you asked is in the time of, fake news or people screaming fake news when it's real news.
Yeah.
And I think detectives always been kind of out of step with a corrupt society. Like at least the Chandler hero and even Hammett, I think the Continental Ops pretty moral guy. Uh,
Pretty brutal.
yeah, he's brutal, but he's also, he's got a code, and I kind of
Yeah.
like his code. So yeah, where was I going with this? So even in the old, like going back to the 30s and 40s, the classic era, there was still an idea of society being corrupt. You got oil people in Chandler's world, you got the gamblers, you got corrupt police, all the sort of structures and institutions, all that Althusserian stuff, ideological state apparatuses are corrupt. And we see that in the Mosley work. So I don't think I'm far afield from that. But I also have a little more hope. Like Sal Lambertino is more like Pat Chambers in the Mickey Spillane books. He's like a good guy, and he's a good sidekick in the sense he's going to tell you straight, and he's not corrupt, and he's someone that Hayden can lean on. And and Stana's network of reporters are pretty much decent people. So I guess I have hope in that way, but I still got all the corrupt figures. There are crooked cops. There's crooked what do you call them? Uh, members of the special services, the RCMP. I mean, there's corruption all over the place, but I think I'm a little more hopeful. But I don't think I'm that far from the tradition. I think tradition going back to Chandler always has down these mean streets a man must go. And I think that way when I write the stories. But I want my hero to be heroic, I guess. To yeah, not to give in. Although we all do at times. So anyway.
Yeah. Now, I mean, one of the things I admire about Hayden is he's considering things. He
Yeah.
he thinks it through. He weighs out, what people are doing, and he doesn't hesitate. He's not quite as quick on the draw as Eddie. Is that
Yeah.
fair to say?
Yes,
Uh,
that is definitely Eddie.
yeah,
Eddie Eddie's like Eddie's whole thing. I got this idea from my buddy Mitch Strauss. He said you got to give Eddie more of a hard edge, and so his suggestion was that, and I've used this in some of the Eddie's got a rep. Both these characters have a little bit of savior complex. All right, so
yeah, for sure. Yes, for
and
sure.
and so Eddie's way of if a woman comes to him and she's a victim of abuse, he'll go and kick the shit out of the dude. That's how
Yeah,
he handles stuff. That's the Eddie school.
yeah,
Hayden would weigh it, look at things,
yeah.
and then pursue more legal ways of doing things.
Yes,
But Eddie will put on a ski mask, go break the guy's leg. I mean,
that's right. Yeah, yeah.
but this
Eddie doesn't hold back.
no, the savior complex for Hayden is, as I mentioned, I think in the second book, and that was also a revelation to me. It makes he's helping himself. He's not just helping others. Doing
Yeah,
this keeps him
interesting.
alive, keeps him because of the trauma he's experienced. By being able to give of himself for others, he feels more alive. So working on the cases helps him as much as the people he's trying to help, is what I'm trying to say. And
Yeah,
Eddie, I mean, Hayden's always trying to be like McGray. He doesn't succeed as much as McGray, but Hayden tries to be non-judgmental, and that's something I got from the Canadian writer Morley Callahan. I just love that about his short stories, how he treats everybody with dignity. Everybody gets a moment. You can't finalize somebody around one truth and say this is a bad person. So there's like a story where the guys are thinking the girl's a tramp, and then I can't remember the title, but then we find out she's got a husband who's got tuberculosis or something. He's not quite in an iron lung, but he's immobile. And we can sort of understand, not that it makes her right, but we understand, we have empathy for why she maybe goes out with other men. I mean, she's not getting fulfilled in that way because of these war wounds that her husband has. And suddenly you're like, oh my God, I was judging her, and now I understand more. And Callahan does that a lot, where he'll kind of stack the deck a certain way, and you'll start looking at a character a certain way, and then suddenly, boom, he flips it, and you're like, oh, wow, Yeah. So there's a very generous, and it's probably it's Catholicism. I don't know, but there's a real kind of religious component of understanding others and understanding the stranger in his work that I really dig.
Yeah,
And
I
I think
agree.
that's what Eddie tries to do. I mean, Eddie does it too, but Hayden for sure always tries to understand where the person's coming. But the tricky part for Hayden is so many fuckers lie to him. Like almost everyone's a
Yeah,
liar, and that's
we
what
live in a world of liars.
he is, and that's what he's constantly having to navigate. And so many of my plot turning points swing on. She lied to me, but then you find out she lied because she was trying to protect her dignity. It's not always necessarily a nefarious reason. It might just be, you know, she's embarrassed or didn't want to admit she was there, or he didn't want, Well, sometimes it's just outright, villainy. So anyway, yeah, I love that. I love that idea of you. Everyone's a suspect. You can't trust the people you encounter. I think
No,
that's
you can,
cool.
I like it when you can see Hayden thinking. Like like somebody's telling him something and he's going, "Yeah, I don't think so," right? Like he's processing and he sometimes he needs to go get more information,
Yeah,
obviously. Right? Like
yeah,
he's got to sift things through. But his alarm, his spidey sense is pretty
yeah,
good and
yeah.
and we get a glimpses of him, like, I don't think so. There's the truth is not here. Okay, so two follow-up questions to
Yeah.
this thread. Are we the two last people that care about Morley Callahan and are still reading them?
I I I read them like when I was in high school. I think because they want to have Canadian content, and that's
Yeah,
not meant as a slam. We would always get to read Steinbeck, but there would always be a Callahan story, like all
yeah,
through my youth. And so I got to know who he was, and he was from Toronto, which was really cool, because I'm from there. And so I read like the that 1959 collection of the
yep,
collected stories, over and over
yep,
again. Um, and then I got the Lost Stories of Morley Count that his son put out, Barry, with I can't remember, Exile, I think
yeah.
it's
That's right. Yeah, I've got those books too. Yeah,
yeah, and I just love those books. And I love Callahan's work. And yeah, I'm a huge fanboy.
yeah,
And I'm sure part of it is, like I said, him being a Toronto guy and Walmart Ave, like the places he writes about. Like, I've been there. I've walked. I've seen the park. It's right. I've walked that street. I know where the Callahan house is. It's on the cover of one of the books, and I've actually stood in front of it. Kind of like a Hermitage. Like I got to pay my respects, but Sherburne Street, like all that stuff. In More Joy in Heaven, the
yep.
scenes bank robberies. I know where that bank is, and it's just yeah, he's the man as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no, I've been rereading. I read this summer again, that summer in Paris, and the
Oh
Exile
yeah,
edition has some extra essays, some sketches of other writers, and I've been working my way through the collected short stories, and been wanting to get back to some of the early novels too, Strange Fugitive among others.
mhm.
Okay, so my second follow-up question is,
And I do love Alice Munro, and I know there's a lot of I don't
well,
write at
that's
all like her. I don't, but I love the big canvas. I love the big imagination she has. I have so much respect for her craft.
oh yeah, I mean.
I'm a huge fan, and she won the Nobel Prize, and as a Canadian, I'm proud about that. I know there's all that other stuff. I get it, and I understand, but she's still like one of my favorite writers. But
Yeah, no,
you know, yeah,
I've had to set her aside, but I'm hoping that I will get past some of that, and I mean because uh, her stories are so great. I mean each one
oh,
is has the weight and complexity of a novel
I
often.
know, I know, and
You
I
know,
can't. I'm with you. Like I can't teach them anymore.
yep,
And
yep,
it pains me to say that, but I'm hoping at some point. I don't know. I marvel at her craft, and I really
yeah,
do.
yeah. No, I do too. Okay, the second question is, and this is an Eddie question.
Sure.
Like I do find that ethical seriousness in Hayden. But does Eddie escape that? Like, is he too impulsive? Is he too like in other words, like you can't the ethical response to the world, to the violences of the world is not more violence. I mean, can you talk about that?
Yeah, that's definitely Eddie. I mean, he
Yeah,
does have the streak of like, yeah, he's I don't know how else to say it, but yeah, like in Stretch of Ground, he takes care of those two guys. Like it's no drop your he just comes out shooting like that.
shooting.
Yeah, that's Eddie. Yeah. And it I I stole that from a Robert B. Parker. No, I liked his westerns, Appaloosa, and they were
Yeah,
like
me too. Yeah,
I read
absolutely.
that whole series. I don't know if it's three or
Yeah.
four books, but
Yeah, right. Read them in an afternoon.
yeah, yeah. And I remember one of the characters, I think Viggo Mortensen played him in the movie,
Yep.
said killing a man is like hammering a nail, which I can't totally believe, but there's a little bit of that to Eddie. He can so dissociate himself. Hayden can't do that. I mean,
Nope.
Hayden's haunted by, you know, by, things he's done in the past. Whereas, like, I don't really think, and that doesn't make Eddie a sociopath. That's just how he compartmentalizes the world. For him, killing those two guys, he doesn't lose any sleep over it.
Yeah,
Whereas
jeepers.
Hayden would. I mean, the two hitmen that Eddie takes out, nah, that doesn't lose any sleep. So he's definitely, and that's why I said more of my Sam Spade. Like he's willing to, like Spade still has a moral compass in the sense like he's got a code and he pretends to be kind of in with the bad guys. Like at least that's how I read the Maltese Falcon.
Yep.
And whereas like Eddie can be a bit of a bad guy, I guess, without
Yeah.
going full bad guy. He's not gonna keep but every once in a while I'll write a sentence like, uh, oh, I can't remember. I think it's Stretch Your Ground where after the guy dies in his cab, there's a comment about there was no money in his wallet either. Like Eddie would have kept the money. That's what like he's but it sounds so old fashioned, but the girl in his life with the woman Evelyn is a good moralizing influence, and she makes him a little more gentle. And she has a tough past too, where she was a victim of sexual abuse from when she
Yeah.
was babysitting. But she's a librarian. She's smarter than him, and so he kind of listens to her. So that's maybe his one saving grace. But yeah, I wouldn't quite say he's my Mike Hammer, but
Yes.
he's got a little more Mike Hammer to him than any of my other characters.
Yeah. One of the things I like most about Dashiell Hammett is whatever is going on, Spade knows more than we do.
Yes.
He doesn't share, right? Like
Yeah.
that always leaves us a little adrift. Okay, so here, let me switch gears.
Okay.
So so you'll forgive me, and I guess I should be asking Ted to forgive us. But part of
Yeah.
what's so great about these books is the hockey world. Like
Yeah.
I think you hit a gold mine when you decided to create a hard-boiled detective gumshoe, two-fisted, set against the backdrop and involved in the world of NHL professional hockey in the 60s and 70s when the game was a little bit different than it is
Yeah. Yeah. And it was Canadian.
Canadian. Yeah. So I don't even know what the question is, but like can you talk about that inspiration and what do you get from that setting and what do you get in terms of
Oh
the way
man.
that Hayden thinks and the way that the action unfolds in the books? Like there's got to be a relationship, right, between hockey and the plots and I don't know, like
Oh, God, there's so much I could riff on this, and I want to make sure I make sense or pull in as much as I can. First off, I'm a very proud Canadian. I live in the US. I've lived here for 40 years now, and but I'm still a Canadian citizen. I haven't become an American citizen. That's no knock on the US. I love my friends here and the people, and I love this country. And I love America, but I love Canada a little more, and I just don't feel like I can be a citizen of two countries. So there's something about hockey is Canadian for me, and it's a way of holding on to vestiges of my past. And so
yeah.
that's really important to me. And the National Hockey League in the 50s and 60s and 40s and 30s, when it was just a 6-team league. There were a few others for a while. There was 8 teams at one point. But anyway, New York Americans and some other franchises. But remember my dad taking me to Maple Leaf Gardens and showing me all the pictures and growing up with the history of all those Stanley Cup winners. And as a Canadian kid, it was like I want to see what Toronto and Montreal are doing. That was and all the French Canadian kids growing up dreaming of playing for the Les Habitants, Le Bleu Blanc Rouge, because Les Glorieux, because they used to like we lived in Quebec, maybe New Brunswick and the Maritimes, that they would have first rights to grab you. And if you lived in Ontario and part of the West, like Manitoba, uh, Toronto would gobble up. Although I don't know how the Habs let Dave Keon get away. He is from Quebec, but anyway, so like that's part of it, and I miss that. Like I think the cultural identity of a bunch of Canadian kids dreaming of playing for Toronto or Montreal. I think it's really sad. I mean, French Canadian kids, the whole roster was pretty much French Canadians on
Yeah.
Montreal,
Oh,
and
absolutely. Yeah.
you had this culture war thing going on, and it representing Canada, and that's been lost because of the draft and 32 teams and all of that. So that's part of it. The other thing is, in 1977, I went to my cousin's wedding, cousin Chris, and I'm like 16 years old, and he turns to me and says, "So I hear you want to be a writer." I said, "Yeah." He says, "Why don't you write about hockey?" And
Ah,
this is a
no
guy that
way.
almost, yeah, he
No
almost
way.
made it. He almost got to be on the Oshawa Generals. He made the final cut and didn't get on the junior A team. Played junior B and pretty talented. And he grew up with his best friend was Bruce Boudreau.
Yep. Yep.
And so they hung out together. There's pictures of the two of them together. Um, so Chris Christie. And that always stayed with me. And so I started writing literary fiction. I wrote a series of literary
Sure.
sports stories, about the
Yep.
Washington Blackhawks. And then I just thought, I've read so much about the Leafs. I've read so much hockey history. Why don't I meld that together? And my experiences of Canada are from like 1960 to 1984. So
Yep.
while I set something in that time when I lived there, and so that's how it all came to be. And it's something about you get away from some place and then you appreciate it more, or you have some distance to also see all the flaws, And so um, yeah, but I guess that's my answer is I I love hockey, love Canada, and to me and as a children of immigrants, my grandfather was Macedonian, and he loved hockey, and he passed it on to his. And that was the way of becoming Canadian was
Yeah.
to watch hockey, and so he loved Tommy Ivan because Tommy Ivan was a Macedonian, like my grandpa, and so he was a Red Wings fan. Then when Tommy Ivan went to the Blackhawks, he was a Chicago Blackhawks fan.
So you had the portable. Yeah. So the trade chefs
Yeah,
immigrated from Macedonia.
right.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so and they all loved hockey. They had the export A calendars on in the store. They lived above a store, and so the store was like a mom and pop little grocery store, and they lived above it, and they all pitched in and worked. There were five of them, and hockey was the thing. And my aunt had a date with Cal Gardner. She wrote to the Leafs and said, "Someone, if you want some good Macedonian food," and Cal Gardner went out for a date with Louise. It was a big deal. My dad, my grandpa was so took all these pictures. It was
They
like,
got all dressed up that day.
yeah, absolutely. So anyway, so that's the long and short of it. I guess is it's just part of my DNA. I remember my dad saying on a Saturday, yeah, you can come on over, but we're gonna have the hockey game on. Just like you can come drop in and visit. But I want you to know we're having the TV on. We're going to be watching hockey.
No talking.
Yeah, so it's just always part of and I have such a passion for it. And I mean, I watch almost every Leaf game,
Yeah.
watched them yesterday. So anyway, yeah, it's just it's a bit of an obsession, but also a
Well,
love.
no, when I share, I mean, yeah, I watch as much hockey as I can.
But I don't know if I
Eh,
answered your question. I mean, is there something like I made it on a personal level, but is there something else in terms of the game, or is there something else you're wanting to get at with that question? I'm
Well,
getting
yeah,
to.
let me put it this way, that the game is tense.
Yeah,
The game is dramatic. The game has eruptions of violence, even as it's artful. And in particular, in a Shoeshine Kill, I think part of what, at least for me as a Canadian slash American reader, the backdrop of the 72 Summit series is itself tense,
Yes.
right? And how the Canadians are playing, right? And that's woven into the conversation and into the dramatic background of the novel. And so it seems like that the tension of the game, the qualities of the game are also bring a kind of tension and kind of conflict and the threat of violence to the
Yeah.
world of the hard-boiled.
Yes, absolutely. And
I'm
I
nattering. Yeah.
no, you're not. And I think I mean, I know it's a term that people use negatively, but I like taking negative terms like woke and making them positive. I'm woke. I love woke, but I
Yeah.
also like identity politics and as a term. And I think there's a way in which Hayden's searching his own identity. There's an identity theme I as a writer have in
Yeah.
writing these stories, pursuing things that have happened to me. And not that I was a victim of sexual abuse, but I was a victim of abuse for years. And that found its way into the
Yeah.
darkness of the of the novels. But that sense of I still remember it, that feeling of betrayal. And I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I was so mad at our boys,
Yeah. Interesting. Wow.
when I was like, what the fuck? I remember being at my deado's and he's smiling because he's like Slavic and he loves Mother Russia because they're like him, outsiders, and like he's like
Yeah.
enjoying the slaughter that's happening at the forum. And I just remember like being really crushed. Like we were supposed to kick their ass. This is supposed
Yeah.
to be
This wasn't supposed to be even close.
it wasn't supposed to be close. We were all puffed up with what the newspapers had to say. And Dick Beddoes, that's a real story that I have in the
Yeah.
book where
Yeah.
with some borscht.
Yep.
And I just remember feeling, and then of course I'm pulling for Canada. I was never pulling for Russia, but um I remember the game in Vancouver and I remember feeling a bit like those fans. Like I would never boo Canadian hockey players
No, I
ever.
never liked that. I didn't
I
like
didn't like
that.
it
Yeah.
either. But I
Yeah.
remember feeling some of that anger.
Yep.
You guys suck. What's going on? Like I was frustrated and we were getting our asses kicked again. And then when Phil Esposito talked, I just remember having shame, and I feel like that guy in Slapshot. I go to a penalty box, I feel shame, but I felt shame, and it was a moment. And I know everyone talks about this, they make it sound like a cliche, but it was a real strong moment of my Canadian identity, and I was all in after that. Not that I ever would be rooting for the Russians or like, I, but I was so like, we got to win. And every game, I watched three of the next four games were on during school time. I think one was on a weekend. And I was
Yep.
just totally, and I've never felt the euphoria like that when we won game eight. I felt like I knew what it was to be Canadian. I know that sounds weird, but that it was,
No, I think that series, Bobby. I mean, I've said to you, I think Bobby Clark helped save Canada.
yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. Absolutely. I know but he pulled an Eddie Sands.
yes, he
So,
did. Well,
yeah.
he did what John Ferguson maybe told him to do. I
Yeah,
don't
and that's the
know.
kind of thing Hayden
Yeah,
would not do that.
yeah,
Hayden would be more like Frank Mahovlich or Kenny Dryden. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Or Paul Henderson.
yeah,
And I love all those guys, by the way. And I love Bobby Clark too. But Bobby, like, he goes full Eddie.
yeah,
And it's like,
yeah,
and for those that don't know, he deliberately broke Karlomov's ankle on a shift. And you got to watch the game because every time I rewatch the game, they don't even comment on it. They just say, "Oh, Carl," it's like they didn't even see it. The camera, like all the bad things that Canadian hockey players were doing in that series, our commentators didn't comment on. Now the
Oh, it
Russians were,
was it was wicked dirty that whole
yeah,
series. I mean,
and,
I
and
un
it
I
went both
understand they were
ways.
wound up.
It went both ways,
No,
though. I
oh,
mean,
absolutely. No, I agree. I mean, the Russians, yeah, they're like knife work.
yeah, yes, and away from the puck where you can't
Yeah,
see.
can't see
Absolutely,
it. Yeah,
it
yeah.
kicked
But,
Gary Bergman and made his leg bleed. I mean, Mikhailov. Anyway,
yeah.
it's Gary Bergman.
When Bobby Clark swung that lumber, I mean, you couldn't do that with the graphite sticks now, right? There's not enough
And
weight
it would
there.
break and you get called for slashing. I mean,
That's
the
right.
DNA would be on the ice.
Oh,
Oh
all
man.
right.
Yeah. But anyway,
Okay.
so that's yeah, I think you're right. And I like what you're saying because I didn't even think about that. I just felt like I gotta tell this story because it's
Yeah.
my kids have heard so much lore about 72. And I kind of wrote the book for them too. And they love that part of it. But it does raise the temperature in the room. I mean, it creates a whole world of tension.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
when you weave the tension of the series against the Shoeshine Kill and no spoilers, not going to give away anything, but
Yeah. The
the
workshop plagiarism. Yeah.
yeah, like yeah, when as the games intersect and as the country is experiencing this kind of trauma, this collective trauma, and there's this violence going on in Toronto. Like, I mean, hockey is and the series is part or particle of the tension and the drama of the novel and the hard-boiled action. So I mean, it's yeah, I mean, it works. It's so damn great.
It's my favorite thing I've ever written. So
Yeah.
I mean, I really like Neon Kiss a lot. But this
Yep.
one, just I'm most proud of this book.
Yeah. I think, I think the series, I think it just gets better and better. And it started out so damn great.
Oh,
Right.
thank
Like, so
you.
yeah.
Well, I felt like
Okay.
I was like I I felt like with the first book, not to be critical of myself, but I felt like I was working a little harder to get zingers. Like I wanted
Uh-huh.
those, the
Yep.
James Bond. I think he got the point. Like
Yes,
when he,
right. Yes,
you
right. I
know,
mean, it's a little more clipped in a way.
yes, yes,
Hayden is a little less. mm, I don't know. I don't know what
yeah.
to say. Like,
I think he's more thoughtful and
yeah,
mature. I mean, it's the word I would say. I think
yeah,
I'm more mature as a writer, but I think it took a while. Like I think I had the voice at the beginning, but it was a little too smartassy, and it's
yeah.
still
I
got
wonder. Yeah, I definitely noticed that change too. We
yeah,
were talking earlier about the evolution of the character. Hayden seems more comfortable in his skin now.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
and I think the revelation of coming clean. That sounds so bad, but the fact that he shared his abuse with a
yeah,
reporter and got that out on Front Street, I think that's allowed him to be more comfortable in his skin. And
yeah,
I don't think I realized, again, another one of those things when I wrote that first novel, I had no idea that might be part of the reason he's a little uptight, you know?
yeah. And it's more. I mean, that the first novel is more in the tradition of homage, I think, to the genre. I mean, I'm not trying to get, lit scholar on your critic on you or anything, but it does seem like, yeah, like, I mean, it's a little, the action's kind of, more in your face even in some
Yeah,
ways, and
yeah, that's
kind of
true.
ironic edges, and the plot, Shoeshine Kill. I mean, like, you just like there's just a lot of empathy, a lot of compassion for what's
And
going
a
on.
friend of mine, Jeremy Schraffenberger, I don't know if I shared this with you guys, but he got talked to me after the, the our Zoom reading. And he said, I love how in the first few pages you set up both plots. I didn't even realize I was doing that. And
Yeah,
that um, you got the guy standing on the street, a car comes towards him, and this is tied into the plagiarism angle.
yeah,
But then you also have a mention that he's going to go talk to Abby.
right to the yeah the young yeah.
Yeah, and then it's just right from the beginning. You're setting up the two. And I was like, holy shit, yeah. And then how they kind of weave and you move apart. And
Yeah,
so
no, and against right away against because they're talking about the hockey.
look on without so there's like three things
Three
going on.
things all at
Yeah,
once. Yeah.
I hadn't even thought about that. See, this is why I love talking to people about my own work because I can't see half the stuff I'm doing.
Well,
So
yeah, I mean, yeah, you're on the inside building the machine. We're getting the effects. Okay, so here, this maybe brings around some of the strands of our conversation. But are these, and so you'll forgive me for asking this question too, and I really don't know the answer. I don't have any idea how you're going to answer. But is it hard to write these books? Because, like, you'll forgive me, but I always think of you as one of the most gentle, good-spirited, good-humored people I've ever known in my whole
yeah,
life.
Yeah.
Like you're just this kind of like, as my daughter would say, you're a sweet guy. And yet you tell these really dark stories. I mean, like, like Alroy kind of dark,
Yeah.
right? Chandler, is this hard? Is it hard on you?
Oh man. Yeah, my wife's always had a ray of sunshine and all this stuff because she deals with depression, and I'm just I wake up every morning like happy to get on with my day. I got a list of cool things to do, and
Yeah,
you but I don't know what the answer is to that. I think I'm happy in part to let loose some things I maybe bottled up for a long time.
gotcha.
Not again. I always feel like I got to qualify this because I don't want people thinking my dad was some kind of monster, but he had depression, he had issues, and there's some things that happened in my childhood that, like, we were so scared of my dad. He'd be asleep on the couch. My sister had got spray paint in her eye, and I'm like telling her to wash it up. My mom's out trying to sell some homes. She's a realtor by
Yeah,
night.
yeah,
And we're like, shh, don't wake dad up. But like, that's fucking nuts. Like, and that's the kind of environment that I was living in as a kid. And I mean, my dad and I, we kind of made peace when I got into my 20s, and I sort of understood him more. And I know he always loved me. It's not that, but there's just, and so I think I've been kind of working out some stuff,
yeah, yeah,
writing the stuff, but I don't really feel, I don't know. I can go into those dark places, but I can come out of it fine. It's hard to explain.
yeah,
I don't know if it's like acting, like I'm real into method acting, but I
yeah,
don't take it home with me. I don't suddenly think and I haven't played the Joker, but I'm saying I don't like the myth, right? Like poor Heath Ledger, he became the Joker and it cost him his life. I don't buy that.
yeah.
If you really think you're somebody, you need to be in Bellevue. I mean, like I always know I'm Grant Tracey playing a part, and it's
Yep.
like blending these together. How am I like the character? How am I different?
Very
What do I got
interesting.
to
Okay.
do? Right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
And I do a similar thing when I'm writing. How am I like Hayden Fuller? How am I different? And let's just put it on the page, and then I'm able to leave it after it's done. I don't think that means I'm a cold person or I compartmentalize the world. It's just I don't know. It just it. My wife won't read my books though. She says they're too dark. So
Well, they are hard to read. Like
yeah,
I like Elra, I like Chandler, I like Hammett, right? Like, I love those books. I love Mosley. Um, I love McGray.
yeah,
I mean, that's more cerebral, less violent. But I do find, um, yeah, like it is hard on the reader,
yeah, yeah,
to go to some of those places, even as, like, of course, I'm a steady reader, right? And that's part of the human experience. And so, I'm interested. I like the genre. I brace myself. And so I've just been thinking about, like, what is it like to write those scenes?
yeah,
Because as a reader, like, oh man, some people have so few defenses in the world,
yeah.
right? And there's predation, and people will cause grievous harm. And so, yeah, I've just been wondering about the psychology of it all. Anyway, I don't know if that's even clear, but
No, no, that totally. I just, I don't know. I don't have a. I'm able to leave it behind. I guess I write it and
yeah,
then yeah. So
okay. All
it's
right.
just.
Well, maybe we can wind up. What else should we be talking about? What are some other questions?
I think you touched on some. What were the other questions on the list? I can't. I mean, I feel like you've hit everything.
Yeah.
You talked about
Oh,
hockey.
the Hayden Fuller novels, are they more Canadian or more American? I guess we sort of talked about that.
Yeah, and
Oh, I know.
I would just say in answer to the Canadian American, I obviously grew up with a love for American narratives. I mean, so
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
gun violence, westerns, detective stories. The Big Brother living south of the Canadian border had a tremendous influence on my artistic imagination. There's no doubt about it, given the movies and the books I read and all that stuff. And some people are Francophiles, some people are Anglophiles. I don't know. It's an American file. I mean, as a kid, I'd loved American culture. I mean, as many Canadians do, and that's why we have to have the CRTC and other good organizations doing their due diligence to give us Canadian culture, right? So, but yeah, that's largely informed my sense of I mean, I think about all the TV shows I watched in the 60s as a kid and 70s, the kind of stuff Quentin Tarantino was critiquing in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, all
Yep.
about murder. I watched Kojak, I watched Streets of San Francisco, I watched Naked City, I watched Combat. I can think of I could go on and on. Police Story with Angie Dickinson. I mean, Mannix, Columbo. I mean, hours and hours. NYPD, the first one, not NYPD Blue, the other one, NYPD. I mean, there's so many cop shows that I invested a lot of time in, and yeah, it's had an influence on me for sure.
Yeah. So there's one of the things I like most about your books. It seems to bring the cultures together.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
thank you. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely something I want to do because, like I said, you know, I am a proud Canadian, so I want to bring those things together. And I love Tim Hortons. Just saying.
Yeah. There you go. Okay. Here, last question then. We know you've told us that Hayden and Eddie are going to cross paths and more
Yes.
than once. And now, is there going to be a collection of the Eddie Sands stories?
I, maybe if Ted, you out there? Yeah, but maybe so. I would love to. I've got a bunch of them. I got about 12 or 13 that have been published. So,
Yeah.
and I got a really good one coming out in Black Cat Weekly. I'm super excited
No
about.
way. Congratulations, dude.
Yeah, yeah,
Awesome.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
tearing it up.
Well, so yeah, I'm pretty excited about this one. Yeah, it's a good one. So anyway, they they work together, and one of the things I tried to do in Artifacts is that Eddie crosses the line, but Hayden's kind of responsible for it. Again, stealing from the Big Heat, and the Big
Yep.
Heat, which
Yep.
is one of my favorite books, movies. I love it. But in the Big Heat, Dave Banyan has a code and he can't kill the bad person. But if she dies, oh shit, I just gave it away. But if she dies, the the big heat falls and all the information comes out and all the bad guys go to jail. But he can't just execute her. But he tells Debbie this. And she's got two different names. She's Debbie Marsh and one thing and Debbie something and she's got two different last names. But anyway, he tells Debbie this and Debbie goes and executes. So like, he
Nice.
even gives her the gun. He gives her the gun. Here, keep this for protection. Keep it for. And then she goes and does what. So she becomes an extension of his will. And there's a moment in the fifth novel where Eddie does some pretty bad interrogation techniques to get information, but he kind of got the dominus hominis from Hayden indirectly, and he calls Hayden on it, and Hayden gives a genuine apology because he realizes his own culpability. Like it's okay to
Yeah.
be all clean and moral, but what
Yeah.
did you just ask this guy to do?
Yeah. If you send somebody in to do your dirty work.
Yeah. So I like the complexity of that, but yeah, Eddie, yeah, I don't want to give it. There's a pretty gross scene where Eddie pulls a bullet out of a corpse because he doesn't want the evidence
Evidence.
to found by the cops because it's Hayden's gun and Hayden didn't do the killing, but he knows he'll get framed for it. So that's the kind of thing Eddie can do. Hayden would never do that, but Eddie's like, yeah,
And he's got a knife in his pocket, a pair of
yeah, he
pliers.
does. He's got a buck knife. He
Yeah.
does. He carries a buck knife. He's not Travis Bickle, but he's a little bit of a loose cannon. So, but
Yeah.
yeah. I remember I saw your question. And I love who's on the canvas, but it's not like a Spider-Man versus like how in Marvel comics back in the 60s anyway, like
Yeah.
Daredevil meets Spider-Man. Next thing you know, they're having a fight because they both think they're
Yes.
you know it's
Toughest.
not
Yes.
it's nothing like that. They actually develop a friendship and an understanding, and there's sort of a opposites attract. And Hayden does tell Eddie at one point, breaking a guy's finger, you could cause him to die, which I got from an Elmore Leonard, no, a Charles Williford book. And the guy's like, And he's like, what? He says, yeah, true story. It could create a response in the body. Guy could have a heart attack. So, just breaking someone's fingers isn't like a good thing. So he's like telling Eddie to maybe think about that, because
Yeah.
that's one of his techniques. So yeah, that's fun getting those two guys together. And I think one of the fun things, I love writing stories where you have, since it's first person, this is Hayden's take on Eddie, and Eddie
Yeah.
doesn't see himself the way Hayden sees
No, of
himself.
course. Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is great for the reader.
yeah, it's so much fun for the reader. And my daughter Elizabeth is the one that pointed out. She said, "So much fun writing scenes like that because you get to." And I discovered Eddie had a tattoo that I didn't know he had. But Hayden notices it. Eddie never talks about the tattoo on his arm,
Yeah. Yeah.
from his service days. So anyway, yeah, it's fun. And I like both guys. And like I said in our interview, I I feel, the Hayden books are a little bit more influenced, like not influenced, but if the analogy, they're more Donald Westlake, and Dorton, oh, I can't remember his name. Anyway, there's a whole series of books,
Yeah.
Westlake, and then the Parker novels written by Richard Stark. And Eddie's my Richard Stark creation, and Hayden's more my Donald Westlake. So I think we can leave it at that. That sounds like a pretty good interview to me. I'm gonna have a lot to transcribe here.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the transcription will just be able to I'll be able to send it.
Yeah. Oh, that would be so cool. You mean like as a paper, and then I can edit
Well,
it? Is that?
in the old days, it would automatically generate,
Oh,
but I
dude.
haven't. Yeah, I haven't used Zoom in that way for because I used to do it when I was teaching online.
Oh, dude, that would be awesome. Then I could just clean up my prose. Not
Yeah.
you, you sound brilliant as always. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
wandering, I'm wandering all over the place. But yeah, that would.